which are the beans and the grains. I think they're going to stay up there. But this is a process that's going on. You've got to be very careful if you're trading commodities, and if you are, you got to trade in and out. I mean, put tight stops in, and as you know, I don't recommend trading, but for those of you who are, that would be the way to do that. The underlying fundamentals, in spite of over the weekend Goldman Sachs telling us that they're going to make more money than they've ever made before from currency trading and other things. Can you pick this up, Alfred, please?
Yeah, you just want, well, I guess I can, I'm going to have to pull something out of the air here. Here's an article from California. Here's an article from the New York Times. This is off topic, but I can't follow exactly with what Bob was talking about. California's solution to $24 billion budget gap is going to bring some pain. Again, here's the article. Again, California normally seeks bank-guaranteed short-term loans to pay its bills in the summer until tax revenue flows in. Because of the tightening in credit, the state sought a guarantee from the Obama administration on $5.5 billion in notes, but it was rejected. And the point of the article is that the poor people of California, who are the principal recipients of California welfare and services, the California state, and that's true for most state governments, they don't really serve the rich. They don't really even serve the middle class. They are primarily there to help the poor and the lower class in the country. Now, the reason this is important, at least to me, is that the people who are collecting welfare right now are the people who would have been working on assembly lines if we hadn't shipped our industries overseas. They're the people who would have been working in steel mills if we hadn't shipped industries overseas. These people cannot be retrained to become Wall Street financiers. All right? You're not going to change these people where they become, you're not going to educate them to become computer programmers or systems analysts. But they could function very well and support themselves and their families, many of them, probably most of them, if government had not knocked our tariff barriers down, engaged in global free trade, and sent our industries overseas. Now, the point I'm trying to get to is this. I am not in favor of welfare per se, but you got to recognize if you send the only kinds of jobs these people can do to foreign countries, these people have a legitimate gripe and a legitimate complaint. They're saying, look, if you don't leave a job for me where I can support my family, you better come up with some welfare for me. And if the government fails to do so, and that's exactly what's happening in California right now, and it'll happen across the United States before we're done, more than likely. If the government fails to do so, you can bet that these people are going to riot. Temperatures are rising. Rioting is a summertime activity in this country. It's going to be surprising, at least to me, if we don't see some significant riots in California before this summer is finished. And again, I'm just trying to point out that I'm going to trace these riots, at least in part, to the idea of global free trade, knocking down tariffs and sending our industries overseas. And I'm not sure if Bob has...
I agree with you completely. In fact, the second leg of my platform for the turnaround in America is investigation of the Fed, termination of the Fed, and then the imposition again of tariffs on goods and services. And services are very important because companies like IBM, by the end of this year, will have shipped almost everything that they do in America out of the country. And there's another aspect of this that people don't know, and when they make those offshore profits in their foreign subsidiaries, all the money goes to the Cayman Islands. If they keep it there, they pay 2%. They don't have to repatriate it to the United States. And many of them are just not continuing to be U.S. companies. They're being companies that are lodged in the Cayman Islands and places like that. And this is a big game they're playing. 4 years ago, legislation came through because those offshore corporations, or the international corporations with offshore money, said they'd make jobs in the United States, and so they brought back $350 billion, and instead of paying 35% taxes, they paid 5.25%. They want to do it again for $700 billion, but Obama hasn't started to talk about that yet, but that's in the cooker right now. So, Alfred, you're absolutely correct, and you're the only one that I have heard on any of the programs who advocates that as I do. Most of these so-called analysts and economists, they don't get it. They think things have to be free trade. There is no such thing as free trade. Every country out there manipulates their currency. They subsidize their products, etc. And we didn't do that before. Now we're forced to by taking over General Motors and Chrysler, although I think we should have let them go under long ago, not just this year. And so in the final analysis, they're going to have to come up with trade barriers. The World Trade Organization is going to get down the sewer, finally. And one of the basic tenets as to why America is in the horrible position it's in today is because of free trade, and it was done deliberately. I wrote about it in 1967, and then again in the early 1980s, when it really started to get underway, and so it was no secret to me or any of my readers. But to the rest of the world, they just don't get it.
Well, even Ross Perot warned when he ran for the presidency, I think it was 1990, if I recall correctly. Maybe it was 92, I don't recall, but when he ran
92.
against 92, right. He warned, look, if you're going to pass NAFTA, there's going to be a giant sucking sound as the jobs disappear out of this country. And that's exactly what's happened. No one wanted to pay attention. I won't say no one, but very few paid attention. And they didn't sustain that attention. Even though a lot of people might have got it for a while, we are easily lulled into a condition of, I don't know, ignorance, stupor, laziness, whatever. And we forget. Until there's a gun pointed at your head, we don't seem to get it. And we're fast approaching that, here comes the gun. You folks are going to have to get this. This is not a game. This is deadly important. I mean, this is not just a question of, economics or stock market or something. This is life and death information. And if people don't grab onto this stuff and hang on tight and stop watching Gilligan's Island, we're going to see a very, very serious problem. And no one is going to enjoy it.
Well, in California, you're just talking about, I lived there for 36 years, and I left there about 14 years ago. And I left because I saw that the tax base could not continue to support the system throughout the state. And that approximately 40% of the people in the state paid no taxes whatsoever, most of them being illegal aliens, but there were a lot of others besides. And I was right, unfortunately. And you're expecting rioting, and you're right. But one of the asides here, and one of the things that law enforcement is very concerned about, is that there are 250,000 members of gangs in the Southern California area between Long Beach and L.A., and they're better armed than the police are. In fact, they get as good equipment as the military has. And you get this rioting going on, and then you've got, organized looting, and then you get warfare. And anybody who doesn't think it's not going to be a shooting war in the streets is mistaken. And I believe that's what's going to happen, is that the police are probably just going to withdraw from the field because they can't handle this onslaught, which might be joined by the public. Southern California is absolutely explosive. And I just wanted to add that. And they're never going to come out of their financial dilemma. They will go bankrupt. We were talking earlier about the market. And the second thing that I believe sent the market down today is, and I want to preface this by saying that the president, when he was elected, had a 30% positive rating. That's under the Rasmussen system.